Glad to have you with us. The headlines.
Tonight, we retrace the steps of 6 men shot dead by police in Dandora.
Wakaniteremsha huko chini kwa mto, kuteremka huko ndo walinirep wote.
The contradicting tales about slain gun victims, police say they were criminals. Residents disagree.
Plus, a standoff over Western Hotel land. Kenya Civil Aviation Authority lays claim to land on which DP Ruto's hotel lies.
And more money, more problems.
It's not that we are discriminative, no. It's only that the Chinese people have come with a very big component.
China threatens to impose trade sanctions as push to reduce Chinese grip on Kenyan market escalates.
Also tonight, different tales, one commission.
Restrict the tender, we need so much time, and I think the timelines were such that the only direct procurement was the only available option.
Chebukati contradicts IEBC Secretariat on Chiloba's role in questionable procurement.
NTV Tonight with Dennis Okari and Olive Burrows.
Welcome to the broadcast. Our sign language anchor is David Agondoa. Remember, you can also watch us online at www.ntvkenya.co.ke/live. Also on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter, NTV Kenya. The Kenya Civil Aviation Authority wants the land on which Western Hotel is built recovered. The controversy surrounding ownership of the land on which Western Hotel is built and which is associated with Deputy President William Ruto remains unresolved. KCAA lodged a complaint with the National Lands Commission saying the property was irregularly acquired from the agency and they now want the transaction reversed. The focus is now also on how some KCAA officials may have conspired with those in the Ministry of Lands then to award the parcel to a private entity. Has the details.
This 2-acre piece of land where Western Hotel sits has been at the center of a dispute that has lasted for years with no end in sight.
Bless Kenya, our land and nation.
The National Land Commission concluded hearings on the disputed land located along Langata Road between two interested parties, the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority KCAA and owners of Western Hotel. According to a claim lodged by the KCAA, the property registered as LR 209/14372 was irregularly acquired and it now wants to repossess the land.
You will detail that previously there had been attempts where people were writing seeking to be allocated that property. So it looks like some kind of conspiracy was going on there for this property to be lost.
So someone tells you move your stuff from one store belonging to you to another store and...
Up until 2002, the land hosted the stores for machinery and equipment for the Directorate of Civil Aviation DCA. But putting to task the KCAA, acting NLC chairperson Abigail Mbagaya demanded an explanation on how the parcel was transferred to the first private entity to be allotted Monene Investment and Priority Limited, who then sold it to Western Hotel.
You exist in perpetuity, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
So the board that performed on your behalf. The board that is performing is still performing on your behalf. Let us just make sure that none of those things happen. Just for our benefit, not for any other purpose.
I'll do that.
Question, he realized that they have no title. He used the word alienation. I think he also agrees now that the land was never alienated to them. Anti-corruption investigated this matter, found no evidence and recommended no action should be taken.
But Ruto's lawyer Nasir Abdullahi argues that his client had followed all procedures required to acquire the land.
Not from us, you know, it's not from, it's not a terrestrial. My client is a Kenyan who bought this property in the normal course and it has put it into a normal use. And I think it is in the interest of everybody that since Kenya, the authority now has been given an alternative land, there is really no purpose in depriving my client of this property.
According to lawyer Nasir, Deputy President Ruto acquired the land in 2007 for 10 million shillings from its registered owners, Monene Investment and Priority Limited, who possessed a genuine title deed. The land was in the 1970s used as stores for machinery and equipment for the DCA. In 2002, the central stores were then moved by the Commissioner of Lands. The same year in October, KCAA was established under the Civil Authority Amendment Act, and all property owned by DCA on behalf of the government transferred to KCAA, among them the land in contention. KCAA, however, never sought a title deed for the parcel. The acting NLC chair has requested for some time to reconcile the facts provided before issuing a determination on the matter. She promised to solve the property row before the term of the current commissioners comes to an end in February 2019. Zainab Ismail, NTV.
Give it back or we take it back seems to be among the limited options available for the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority, which has yet again claimed the 2-acre parcel of land where Western Hotel is built along Langata Road opposite Wilson Airport and adjacent to Langata Road Primary School.
While this is one of the explicit positions taken on this land by the government agency, it is not clear how they intend to claim it back. As Ken Mijungu reports, it is unlikely to be easy.
That Western Hotel is owned by Deputy President William Ruto is not in dispute. From the construction to the operation, he has been very much at the center of it all, and even when someone believed to be the proxy for the DP claimed it, this picture said otherwise. The contention now is on the 2-acre parcel where the hotel is built, with the latest claim by the Civil Aviation Authority that it owns the land. The story begins in 2001. At that time, the DP was not in the picture, but once the plot developed, he has been thrust in the thick of it all. At that time, an individual identified as Ms. Kikabi applied to the Commission of Lands and the Ministry of Transport asking to be allocated the parcel of land, noting that it was an empty plot. In the letter, she noted that the land was 2 acres. Then, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Transport, Ambassador Francis Mudhaura, declined to approve the allocation, indicating to the applicant that it was not vacant land. In the letter, Mudhaura stated that it had a building which provided the central storage facilities for sensitive air navigation equipment and spare parts belonging to the Directorate of the Civil Aviation Authority. According to Mudhaura, the Civil Aviation Authority headquarters was to be built on that land. Mudhaura concluded the letter that was addressed to the then PS Lands, Nehemiah Ngeno, and copied to the Directorate of Civil Aviation by recommending that, quote, in order to safeguard the ownership of this government plot, which seems to attract the attention of property developers, I request your office to issue a title deed in favor of the Directorate of the Civil Aviation. But this never happened. On the 30th August 2002, a title was issued, but not in favor of the Directorate of the Civil Aviation, but jointly to Priority Limited and Monene Investment under the seal of then Commissioner Silas Komen Moita. On the 6th of January 2003, then PS Ministry of Transport and Communication Sami Kyungu wrote to the PS Lands Francis Bayer, noting that the said land had been fenced off by a private developer. Kyungu reaffirmed Mudhaura's letter saying, quote, the plot was not available and was among the very important inventory of assets which the government was meant to transfer to the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority and should not be allocated to any other party, end of quote. But it was too late. The land had been taken over and a title issued. On the 13th of June 2007, the title was transferred to Western Hotel Limited. In fact, by the 8th of December 2011, Western Hotel had acquired a loan at Equity Bank of 100 million shillings, a loan that was repaid in full by the 27th of October 2014. Then, a fresh charge of about $500 million shillings was entered with the Kenya Commercial Bank. Ken Mijungu, NTV.
President Uhuru Kenyatta has now directed the taxman to go after high net worth individuals whose tax remittance does not reflect their lifestyle, as the KRA looks to meet its ambitious revenue targets.
The president wants KRA to deploy technology to trace and audit such individuals as part of its revenue enhancement measures. Julian Samboko has the details.
The Kenya Revenue Authority has often been hard-pressed to meet its revenue targets, in turn imposing the burden of raising revenue on mostly the low and middle-income earners. Meanwhile, large corporations and high-net-worth individuals have been denying the country the billions it needs to plug revenue shortfalls.
You hold the taxpayer.
President Uhuru Kenyatta now has his sights trained on the super rich with a directive to the taxman to cast his net wider to catch these high net worth individuals in a fight against tax evasion.
Over the past few years, the impressive growth of our GDP has outstripped the growth of the tax base, and as a result, it tends to fall upon few citizens to carry the burden of many.
The focus on this group whose lifestyles do not correspond with the tax they pay is meant to bring more Kenyans into the tax net. Large corporations have also exploited the loopholes in the tax regime and tax holidays granted to them in the law.
You hold the taxpayer.
A study by American research firm National Bureau of Economic Research dating back to 2007 indicates that at the time, 1.2 trillion shillings or up to 70% of the country's gross domestic product was stashed in foreign accounts. President Uhuru Kenyatta has now called upon KRA to employ technology to fish out those not paying their dues.
Specifically, the National Treasury must consistently review our tax policies and propose legislation to rationalize areas of duplication, simplify compliance at all levels, as well as encourage self-declaration and make it all easier for all Kenyans to willingly pay their taxes.
On its part, KRA has undertaken to strengthen its surveillance and seal revenue leakages. The authority has unveiled the Integrated Scanner Command Center, which is expected to boost its capacity to track cargo and float declaration of proceeds.
The effective utilization of scanning is not only benefiting revenue collection, but in addition, speeds up clearance processes, thereby leading to better trade facilitation.
Economic sovereignty and leveraging ICT to mobilize more revenue were the two recurrent themes in this year's Taxpayers' Day. The burden now falls on KRA to ensure it meets its ambitious revenue targets for the financial year 2018-2019. Julian Samboko, NTV.
A storm is brewing at the CRA over the formula to be used for revenue sharing as it settles to come up with a third-generation formula.
According to the chairperson, the commission is not yet decided on the way forward with regards to the formula as they are still listening to views.
The commission was reacting to comments from one of their own who told NTV that the commission had agreed that the formula will be changed.
Kennedy Mureithi reports on this debate on revenue allocation and the division within CRA.
Just a day after a commissioner at the Commission for Revenue Allocation appeared on NTV and painted a picture of a team closely working together to come up with a third-generation formula that will be used in sharing revenue at the national and county levels as of next year, his colleagues now say he was speaking as a lone ranger and does not represent the voice of the majority.
For the avoidance of doubt, please be advised that the spokesperson of the commission is the chairperson, and that is myself, Dr. Jane Kiringai.
According to the chairperson, who was flanked by the CEO and other commissioners, the views of Commissioner Peter Gashuba were personal and do not represent the views of the commission as a whole.
Once a commission makes the decision, it is officially communicated through the office of the chairperson.
In his interview on Tuesday, Commissioner Gashuba painted a picture of a commission speaking in one voice, having agreed that the current formula in use is not working, thus disadvantaging other regions.
Somebody in Lamu or some of these far places, in aggregate they receive about 38,000 shillings per person, and while somebody in Nairobi and Kiambu receive about an average of 5,000 shillings. That discrepancy is a bit too big, so we need to find a way of evening it out and balancing it out.
His position almost an echo of that held by Mount Kenya MPs, who at a retreat in Naivasha on Monday said the current formula was faulty and needed review.
We know that Mount Kenya region contributes over 60% of our country's GDP. Yes. Yet only 20% comes back to its people. Yes. We have therefore called upon the Commission of Revenue Allocation, CRA, Parliament and other relevant agencies to ensure that the region gets its fair share of resources when it comes to development and implementation of the second generation formula.
However, the chairperson says it is too early to determine whether the formula for revenue allocation should be changed or not, as they have not yet come up with parameters to be used.
The option may be to even keep the current formula.
The Commission now coming out to discount an early assertion by one of their own about an agreement with regards to what was said by Mount Kenya members of Parliament now shows of divisions that may be appearing within the Commission itself. Kennedy Mureithi, NTV, in Nairobi County.
The trial of 37 suspects linked to the loss of 226 million shillings at the National Youth Service started Wednesday morning at the Anti-Corruption Court in Nairobi.
The prosecution, which presented its opening statement, also cross-examined one witness before Chief Magistrate Douglas Ogoti. NTV's Seth Olale with the latest update on NYS2 probe.
Lead prosecutor Joseph Riungu likened the companies implicated in the scandal to a ruthless fly-by-night briefcase or business entities which stole over 226 million shillings, part of the 8 billion shillings which was siphoned from the National Youth Service. The prosecution outlined 12 counts of offences against the 37 accused persons that include abuse of office, conspiracy to commit an economic crime, willful failure to comply with applicable procedures and guidelines relating to management of public funds, neglect of official duties, fraudulent making payments, breach of trust, making documents without authority, uttering false documents, false accounting, fraudulent acquisition of public property, dealing with suspect property, and money laundering. The court also had that payments of pending bills used in the NYS transactions were fake. Suppliers who had not been pre-qualified were awarded tenders. The local purchase orders that were used in the transactions had been used before in other ministries. The S11 form that contains counter requisition and issue voucher was filled before the files were issued to NYS, and that the deliveries were allegedly made at the Mechanical Transport Branch MTB, which does not store any foodstuff. The prosecution cross-examined one witness, Sebastian John Mukoa, then head of supply chain in public service. According to the prosecutor's opening statement, the 226 million shillings that was lost at the NYS is enough to recruit and train 3,000 youth at the NYS annually. Meanwhile, additional witnesses are expected to give their testimony in relation to the case. Seth Olale, NTV at the Milimani Law Courts.
Police in Dandora have decried the lack of support from area residents in their efforts to fight criminal activities in the area.
This was in response to allegations that they had killed 6 people in Dandora in unclear circumstances.
A senior crime officer in the area took NTV to the scene where it all started, leading to the death of the 6 who they maintain are known criminals.
Charity Mwangi has that story.
Dandora Estate yesterday, and residents were united in a quest for justice for 6 of their youthful community members who had allegedly been killed by rogue police officers. They claimed that the police, in pursuit of an unknown criminal, broke into a house and killed 3 people alongside the criminal. The 3, a man and his 2 nephews, according to area residents, were not involved in the alleged rape of a 24-year-old mother of 1 and the assault and robbery of a boda rider in Lucky Sama, an incident that sparked police action. Another victim is said to have been shot after he was spotted by one of the alleged killer cops in an effort to cover up the extrajudicial killings. But today, police gave their version of events, with one of the crime officers whose identity remains protected taking NTV reporters to the home of the rape victim, painting a grim picture of a youth gang whose disregard for human life and dignity gives law enforcement officers pause.
Wakasema ati wewe msichana lazima tu tumalizane tu na wewe. Ndo akaniteremsha huko chini kwa mto. Kuteremka huko ndo walinirep wote. Wenye walishanirep ndo wawili wakakuja na wakachukua pikipiki wakakuja naye.
4 of them later escorted her home with the aim of stealing whatever property of value she had in her house, leaving the boda rider under the watchful eye of one of their armed colleagues. Her husband, however, faulted their plan when he raised an alarm that caused them to flee. Her story was corroborated by the boda rider who she was in the company of when the gang struck. He says he pointed out the criminals right before the 5 ran away and before the gunfight between the suspects and the police ensued.
Wote kwa mapanga kutoka hivi. Mmoja amevaa nguo white. Mmoja amevaa kama sweater. Ni sweater lakini si sweater.
The rider says the police have an uphill task every time school closes, as some of the criminals are students whose alleged drug habit drives them into crime.
Utaweka kisu ama kufe kitu moja, lakini Mungu mko na mimi mpaka msana.
Police here in Dandora say that they are either damned if they do or damned if they don't. Their greatest challenge being the residents here who protect the very criminals that they try to pursue and bring to justice. Charity Mwangi, NTV.
President Uhuru Kenyatta has assured all 2018 Kenya Certificate of Primary Education candidates of landing a spot in secondary school next year.
The promise was reiterated by his deputy William Ruto and Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i, who warned chiefs of being held accountable if students in their areas of jurisdiction fail to enroll in schools.
The president made an impromptu visit to Uhuru Gardens Primary School along Langata Road, while his deputy did the same at Musa Gitau Primary School in Kikuyu.
NTV's education reporter Sharon Baranga with day 2 of KCPE.
Day 2 of Kenya Certificate of Primary Education was full of surprises to some candidates in Nairobi and Kiambu counties, and at the same time full of promises from the government. The government expects to have 100% transition of 2018 KCPE candidates to secondary school next year. This promise was accompanied by a warning.
By the time the KCPE results are announced, every chief and assistant chief knows the numbers and the names of the people in the primary schools in their jurisdiction. Then they start working with head teachers. Sasa safari hii, we will be asking the chief and the assistant chief why these children have not gone to Form 1.
Earlier, and just like their colleagues across the country, Class 8 candidates at Uhuru Gardens Primary School made their way to school. Focus was on the day's examination papers, science and Kiswahili. Little did they know what was in store for them. A visit from the head of state. Just before they sat for their exam, President Uhuru Kenyatta made his way to the school. He spent a few minutes talking to the candidates.
Don't succumb to pressure, yeah? All right? Yes. An exam is just an event, yeah? Yes. An event in the process of life, all right? Huh? A teacher, well done. You know that's the best profession in the world. Yeah? That's what you want to be.
He reiterated the promise to ensure that the 1.06 million candidates will get places in secondary schools.
Just do the best that you can do, all right? Yes. And my promise is that so long as you've done your best, every one of you will find a place in secondary school.
His deputy president William Ruto also made an impromptu visit to Musa Gitau Primary School in Kikuyu, Kiambu County, engaging candidates in a brief chat before they settled for their science paper.
Nobody should be anxious as to what will happen. Yeah, next year, each one of you will be in Form 1.
So you're all ready? Yes. Yes? Yes. Are you excited?
The government has been vocal on measures in place to ensure a credible exam is delivered, with more cabinet secretaries and top government officials supervising the distribution of exam papers across the country. The exams will end tomorrow. Sharon Baranga, NTV.
What a week it has been for those candidates. On Monday, we had CS Amina Mohammed visiting several schools around Langata area.
Yes,
today, we have the president and so many government officials. Did you ever
like get a visit from a government
official?
Yeah,
I was seeing a government official, yeah.
Well, actually, I went to school near Uhuru Gardens to the Malaysia Primary School. No government officials, but Serena Williams.
Oh, Serena Williams. Well, where I went to school is where that story we read about Dandora extrajudicial killings. So we only had security officers come near our school. I went to James Gishuru Primary School somewhere in Dandora. And
then visit your school. How about the next time?
No,
even tomorrow, go. Go wish them luck.
Still on KCPE, 10 people have been arrested in connection with the Kenya Certificate of Primary Education papers that went missing in northern Narok today morning.
And a 14-year-old girl was today arraigned in an Ogembo court in Kisii County for impersonation, contrary to the Kenya National Examination Council Act of 2012. NTV's Rose Wangoi has more details.
17 KCPE candidates at Olenamuka Primary School in Narok North went through anxious moments after the examination papers mysteriously disappeared in transit. The school head teacher Ann Kirui joined the police officers to trace the papers that went missing after being picked from a container at Olkuto at 4 a.m. 10 people, including 8 teachers and 2 police officers who are set to administer the KCPE exams, were arrested and will be taken to court on Thursday. The students were later given the examination hours after official time. And in Kisii County, a 14-year-old girl was today arraigned in court for impersonation, contrary to the Kenya National Examination Council Act of 2012. 4 other suspects, among them her parents, were charged with conspiracy to cheat in the examination. Her father, Ruben Mugaka, is a deputy head teacher at Nyabonge Primary School. The Form 1 student was caught sitting the KCPE examinations at Iburi Primary School. Ogembo Senior Resident Magistrate Julius Mutai ordered that the 4 be detained at Itumbe police cells until November 2nd, when they shall return to take plea. In Nakuru County, a 14-year-old Class 8 candidate is sitting his KCPE papers in the high dependency unit at the Rift Valley General Hospital after he was admitted with acute abdominal pains. Felix Kipto, a pupil at Keringet Boarding Primary School, was admitted at the hospital last week on Thursday, where he was operated on. The recovering candidate, however, insisted on sitting for his examination at the hospital, where a team of invigilators are dispatching his examination papers. On a rather sad note, a 14-year-old girl in Murang'a County passed on Tuesday night after sitting for first-day KCPE papers. Lucy Wamboi, who was schooling at Mutingiri Primary School in Gatanga Sub-County, passed on at her home few hours after she was treated and discharged at Thika Level 5 Hospital.
Well, 26 minutes past 9, and it's about that time we take a break. NTV Tonight will be returning shortly.
Thank you for staying with us. The Chinese government has downplayed concerns about a possible trade war between Kenya and China after Kenya banned tilapia imports from China starting January next year. The Chinese government had threatened to cut funding for Phase 2B of the standard gauge railway project in retaliation. NTV's Leila Mohammed spoke to Madeira MP Rigathi Gachagua on his bill that seeks to restrict Chinese and foreign-owned companies from getting contracts worth less than 1 billion shillings, and also reports on the Chinese government's protests to this move.
The government's bid to expand the SGR project from Naivasha to Malaba may be derailed by the beef between Kenya and China over the free-zone fish imports from China. A letter by Susan Imende, the PS Fisheries, Aquaculture and the Blue Economy to 16 companies, most of whom are Chinese affiliated or owned, informs them that starting the 1st of January 2019, all tilapia imports, whole or fillets, will not be approved in the country, causing panic among the affected companies. But China has threatened to impose trade sanctions in response. The row may have been set off by these remarks by President Uhuru Kenyatta that were also a directive to officials to find ways to stem the flow of imports at the expense of local producers.
Think out of the box. Tunaweza kusema hiyo samaki ambayo imefika ni mbaya. Na unaifungia.
Madeira MP Rigathi Gachagua has drafted amendments to the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act 2015, seeking to ensure that local business people enjoy the 30% access to business opportunities in their own backyards.
It's not that we are discriminative, no. It's only that the Chinese people have come with a very big component, and in the process they have taken the entire construction industry. They have gone ahead to take up retail trade. They have gone ahead to bring all supplies from China, and to add insult to injury, they have also brought so many workers with skills that are available here in this country.
The Chinese government believes the move is an unfair assessment of their investment in the country. In a recent meeting with the various stakeholders at the Chinese embassy, the acting ambassador Li Zhuhang hinted that China may rethink funding for the SGR.
They cannot be everywhere in this country because simply we owe them. And they also must respect that we shall pay this money. It's not a grant. It's not a favor. It's not a gift. This is money we are borrowing, we shall pay with interest at the appropriate time.
The Chinese embassy is keeping up hope that the row will be resolved and the imports will resume, diffusing concern that it could escalate into an all-out trade war.
On more than one occasion, the president has stated that Kenya is free to attract and do business with whomever is interested in doing business with this country. But with the influx and dominance of Chinese investors in the country, some members of parliament are insisting that sometimes buy and build Kenya is important for Kenyan investors to grow. Leila Mohammed, NTV, Nairobi.
Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission Chairman Wafula Chebukati has today admitted to approving the tender for the direct purchase of election materials at a cost of 4 billion shillings as concerns rise over the cost of the last election.
Chebukati made the revelations during a session with the Public Accounts Committee of the National Assembly just a day after the commission blamed sacked Chief Executive Officer Ezra Chiloba. Silas Apollo reports.
A second day of questioning with the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission had pressed to answer questions on how it used its expenditures in the past year. Members of the National Assembly's Public Accounts Committee were today interested in how the purchase of equipment for the 2017 general elections was done. Asked to address responses given by the Commission yesterday and which implicated former IEBC CEO Ezra Chiloba, the Commission Chairman Wafula Chebukati said approvals were given only on grounds that they must follow the law.
A very short sentence. Did you approve the decision by the CEO to do direct procurement? Did you or did you not?
Timelines were such that the only direct procurement was the only available option. So you approved? It was brought the attention of plenary, and we said proceed and procure in accordance with the law.
Why do you say using the word approve?
Well, because you want it to come from my mouth. Well, at our level, as a commission, we said, go ahead. So that's approving it. Yeah.
Okay. But it is this admittance by Chebukati that raised more concerns within the committee as members sought clarifications on the responses given by the IEBC yesterday.
Is it evidence before this committee that your commission had no role whatsoever in deciding the method of procurement of the KIMS kit?
The IEBC was also put to task on whether it got value for money in the procurement of the electronic voting system.
Why was it necessary to procure these items afresh and spend 856 million on things that had been done earlier, including the backup infrastructure for the cloud service, the Mofo tablets, and all those other items?
Technology, whether it is good or bad, whether the best technology can still be able to fail. And therefore we are looking at, for example, even this was guided by Election Technology Advisory Committee, that there are some systems that are bound to fail, and therefore you must have backup for the purpose of the election.
IEBC has also been accused of failing to account for 1 billion shillings spent in fraud procurement of materials for last year's elections. Other anomalies flagged by the audit report include goods delivered after the polls, inflated tenders, and undelivered goods. The Public Accounts Committee says it has lined up a number of sessions to answer to questions on whether the IEBC was prudent in the management of its resources and whether Kenyans got a value for their money in the past elections. Silas Apollo, NTV, at Parliament Buildings.
Now, earlier we told you about President Uhuru Kenyatta making an impromptu visit to the Uhuru Gardens Primary School in Lang'ata. Now, as he was leaving the school, a crowd had already formed outside the gate.
They demanded that the president address them, and one man took the opportunity and made a good sale.
He sold around 3 bananas for a couple of thousand shillings.
Take a look at the drama that unfolded.
Tunauliza sasa leo tutakuja siku nyingine kubonga, lakini leo tutulie watoto wafanye mtihani kwa. Tutakuja tena sasa tubonge. Asante sana. Hii ni ya breakfast.
Dennis, what were you saying? They're not bananas, but a what?
I saw sweet bananas.
Oh, okay.
We call them eviskari.
Ati what?
Eviskari.
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 Eh?
Eviskari.
Eviskari.
Yeah, sweet bananas.
Eviskari.
For
okay.
for a couple of thousands, that's really good money.
It's a good deal.
Yeah.
Okay, speaking of deals, I'll be back after this break with the business news.
Are you an investor, distributor, or an entrepreneur interested in business and partnership opportunities from China? Welcome to the China-Kenya Industrial Capacity Corporation Exposition happening on 14 to 17 November 2018 at the KCPE, Nairobi, Kenya. Come learn, network with various manufacturers and exporters from China, and grab fantastic business opportunities available. For more details, visit www.cicce.com.cn or call 0700 169 429 or 020 238 0256. The China-Kenya Industrial Capacity Corporation Exposition is brought to you by these sponsors. Don't miss out. Welcome.
Tusker Premium Cider has a rich apple flavor and a smooth, crisp finish for a refreshing taste. Tusker Premium Cider, exploding with taste.
Betting is the fastest growing biashara in Kenya. If you want to invest in a good biashara, open a betting shop today. Because many betting customers go to betting shops to chase a virtual game, sports betting, live betting and more. Open betting shop yako wherever you are and celebrate the growth of your biashara.
Karibu betting.
Grow nasi.
First time ever from Downey.
Consuming less than 100 units every month are set to benefit from reduced cost of power after the Energy Regulatory Commission announced new electricity tariffs for these categories. Victor Kiprop reports on the new power tariffs that come on the back of a widespread public outcry over the rising cost of power that adds to an already high cost of living in the country.
Barely 2 weeks after President Uhuru Kenyatta directed the Energy Ministry to lower the cost of electricity for small and medium enterprises, the energy regulator has finally reviewed its electricity tariffs and new changes that are expected to bring relief to both small businesses and consumers.
This, we have introduced what we call small commercial one, which is the small SMEs consuming less than 100 units a month. The energy charge rate for this customer category has been reduced from the current 15.6 shillings per kilowatt hour to 10 shillings per kilowatt hour.
These reductions means that small businesses who consume, for instance, 50 units of electricity every month will, beginning tomorrow, enjoy a 31% decline in their monthly bills from about 1,100 previously to about 758 shillings, and the change is expected to affect about 67% of the country's SMEs. Meanwhile, households which consume between 10 and 100 units per month who were hit by a 54% increase in the cost of power during ERC's last tariff review in July are also set to benefit from cheaper power after the regulator added them to the lifeline tariff, bringing the total number of households in the category to about 55.7 million. Households consuming a total of 100 units every month, for instance, will now pay about 1,517 shillings per month, down from about 2,219 shillings previously.
The Commission has reviewed the domestic category by increasing the lifeline threshold from the current 10 units or 10 kilowatt hours to 100 kilowatt hours or units. And further, the Commission has reduced the charge rate, the energy charge rate, from 12 shillings kilowatt hours to 10 kilowatt hours.
Today's tariff review announcement by the energy regulator marks a huge relief for middle-class households and, even more importantly, the small and medium enterprises who account for 25% of the country's gross domestic product. Victor Kiprop, NTV Business, Nairobi.
Some Kenyans who are kerosene users have dismissed claims by the Energy Regulatory Commission that a drastic decline in the uptake of kerosene from depots reflects a favorable outcome to the introduction of the 18-shilling anti-adulteration levy. A spot check by NTV reveals dissatisfaction with the increase in the price of kerosene, which is a source of fuel for many low-income households. ERC indicated that prior to the levy, which came into effect through the Finance Act 2018, up to 75% of all kerosene being used in adulteration.
Enyewe kweli mafuta iko juu sana. Hata ukinunua mafuta ya 20 bob huwezi tosha chochote. Unaona? Unachemsha tu mboga, stofu imezima.
Mafuta taa haitoshi. Ni bei kali sana. Wananchi wanaumia tangu wapitishe hiyo mswada ya nini? Ya mafuta taa, hata wengine wanalala njaa.
Hii bei ya mafuta taa kupanda imetuumiza sisi kama maasla. Hata ukinunua mafuta taa ya so hawezi itumia hata kwa siku mbili.
Kenya Power and Mumias Sugar will delay the release of their financial results for the period ended June 30th, 2018. According to statements issued by the two companies, they're expected to publish the results by November 30th, 2018, with Kenya Power attributing the delay to changes in its senior management. In May 2018, Kenya Power announced formation of a commercial directorate aimed at helping focus more on addressing the needs of its consumers. The Kenya Power share closed on Wednesday at 4 shillings and 5 cents, 2.4% lower than it did yesterday, while that of Mumias closed 7% lower at 65%. That closes our business news.
Welcome back. Now, if you are in Nairobi, you may have noticed something special this short rainy season. Well, apart from the fact that I'm dressed in purple, but every once a year, the jacaranda tree goes into full bloom, draping the capital in a magnificent display of color. But many are not aware of this towering tree. NTV's Zainab Ismail went to experience the beauty the jacaranda tree brings to the capital. Take a look.
They say a tree is almost intimate contact with nature, and every year between October and December, clusters of purple haze dot Nairobi's tree line as the city's jacaranda trees come to bloom.
It's that time of the year when the jacaranda tree rears her beautiful purple-veiled head, gracing the streets of Nairobi with a violet carpet. It is one of the most beautiful trees in the world. It can grow up to 15 meters tall, and its branches stretch considerably wide, creating good shade during the hot season. At the Jivanji Gardens in Nairobi CBD, revelers enjoy the shade, but it appears few know of the tree that stands majestically to protect them from the scorching sun.
Sina idea kuhusu mti.
Especially jina yake sijui inaitwa nini.
If you look at the number of people who come to sit under a tree at the Jivanji Gardens, it is so amazing that the people who actually planned to plant these trees are long dead. We have conserved them, but we will forever remember them.
Even the bees don't have to be so busy this time. The nectar from the jacaranda tree provide a haven for the pollinators.
For us to achieve 360 million trees on an annual basis for 5 years is going to be business unusual.
This is Ngong Road, once synonymous with the towering trees lining the road, but it's all gone now. As the country carries on with the quest to increase the forest cover to 10% before 2022, there is a need for proper balance.
I also appeal to Kenyans to plant and select trees that are of tremendous value to them. In this case, we are looking at fruit trees. In this case, we are looking at bamboo as an industry.
And as the purple rain withers down and the bloom disappears, the true essence of it appears to teach a great lesson, that the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is now. Zainabi Smile, NTV.
So you really did not know that there's a song called Purple Rain?
No, I didn't. I know of, I think it's Eminem who did a song called Purple Prince or something like that. I don't know.
The song is by Prince. Tell me you at least know who Prince is.
At least I know Prince.
Okay.
I thought it did rock.
All right, so we take a break on that note. When we come back, Warod there will be here with the sports news. Let me play Purple Rain for dinner.
Oh.
I am Morotekiru,
Welcome to NTV Sport. The national amputee team will face defending champions Russia on Thursday night in a round of 16 encounter at the ongoing Amputee World Cup in Mexico. The team qualified for the second round of the tournament after finishing second in Group F behind Turkey following their 3-0 victory over African champions Liberia and a 2-1 win over the USA. The team had lost 4-1 in its opener against Turkey. Meanwhile, Nairobi Governor Mike Mbovi Sonko has rewarded the team with $500,000 for its win against the USA. The governor earlier facilitated the team's participation in the World Cup, purchasing kits and also settling their allowances. The national sevens rugby team strength and conditioning coach Geoffrey Kimani has opted not to sign a new contract ahead of the 2018-2019 HSBC World 7 Series. Kimani, who was on the technical bench when Shujaa won the Singapore Sevens in 2016. He also is a level 4 sprints coach who coached Team Kenya to the 2015 World Athletics Championship. His departure is a big blow for Shujaa, who will be under new coach Paul Pau Murunga after Innocent Simiu contract was not renewed. Meanwhile, the national 15s rugby team has departed for their repechage in France. The team that was hosted to a farewell lunch this afternoon at the RFUA grounds will face Canada, Hong Kong and Germany as they hunt for the final ticket for the 2019 Rugby World Cup. The team had to make do with no friendlies and allowances due to the government not availing any funds. The national women's football team, the Harambee Starlets, will play Uganda's Crested Cranes and Ghana as part of their preparations for the 2018 Africa Women Cup of Nations. The Starlets will face Uganda on Sunday before taking on Ghana next Wednesday. Talks are ongoing with Cameroon in regards to an extra warm-up match before the tournament begins. On Wednesday, the Starlets beat an FKF Women Premier League select side 1-0 in a match played at the Utali grounds, with Mercy Ochieng scoring the solitary goal. Now, Kenya is on track to host a successful safari rally in 2019, which will be a candidate event in its quest to join the World Rally Championship in 2020. This is according to the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Sports, Keremy Kaberia, who was present at this past weekend's WRC Rally of Spain. Kaberia, together with the chairman of the WRC project, Phineas Kimathi, handed out the prizes to the winners. The safari rally, famed for his tough driving conditions, featured on the WRC circuit between 1973 and 2002, save for 1995 when it was not held.
It's extremely exciting, having been there. In fact, they had several meetings with us. I led a delegation to Barcelona, and we negotiated a lot of things with different teams. We've a very good agreement on what to do, what to start with, where to start, and I can tell you the excitement within the rallying fraternity is unbelievable.
Premier League sides Arsenal, Chelsea and Tottenham are in action tonight in the round 16 of the Carabao Cup. The Gunners will host Blackpool at Emirates. Chelsea play Derby County at Stamford Bridge.
Dennis, people are surprised at you. They're surprised. Like Luca Kenya says he's surprised you don't know about the song, or you never heard of the song Purple Rain.
Oh no, I know songs like Uninyunyizie Maji, Bwana, Niwe Mweupe, Unitakate. Those are the kind of songs that I know.
Okay. All right, you'll sing that one for me, I think.
Oh, I will,
after
definitely.
this.
I will.
Right.
My name is Dennis Okari.
And I'm Olive Burrows, and our sign language anchor, as Dennis put it, is David Gondoa.
Good night.